We are positioning the camera. Rob Nelson here in the studio. If you are at all nervous about people being around you while you shoot, you don't need them because you can self-shoot. First of all, it's free, but it's gonna take some practice. Let's get started. Check this out. Jonas is doing a live feed for our patrons right at the moment. That's part of the way we fund 52 Things. Links down in the comments below. Back to this tutorial. Okay, so let me just give you a little bit of background. About half of what I do is self-shooting. The other half is working with larger productions. Sometimes I'm a producer, sometimes I'm the cameraman, and sometimes I'm actually in front of the camera and I'm a presenter, like last season when I did 16 episodes of Secrets of the Underground. And sometimes when I'm on camera and I'm hosting these shows, I will take the camera, I will go out into the field and I'll start self-shooting. Jumping over this. And the reason for that isn't just because it's pretty efficient and you don't need the whole crew to go with you. Sometimes it's the look you want. It actually gives credibility to your films, and you can use this technique as a storytelling device. For instance, take The Last Spider-Man. At the very beginning, Peter Parker was using this vlog style as a storytelling technique. It's rough around the edges, but it's a very current style. So let me bring it back to some of my filmmaking. I actually went to Chernobyl for Animal Planet to do a scientific survey of the area 30 years after the nuclear disaster. And while I was there, I actually just took out my cell phone and started recording little bits as things were happening. The producer saw that and ended up using some of the clips in the final product. And it gave an interesting feel.
You know, we're dealing with wolves that have been exposed to radioactivity.
Almost 9 o'clock at night right now. We haven't passed anybody in a while. Shh.
You see? You see?
What was that?
It's very, very low sound, like a fragment of a hole in very far distance.
I'm shooting this episode because I think that self-shooting is actually a skill. It's something that some of my older filmmaking friends don't use, but I think that's something you should have in your toolkit. I want to show you a couple techniques, some things that I use as I'm doing these. Now, here are all of my devices. Hold on. Your cell phone. So I think cell phones can be overlooked a lot of times. Almost everybody has one in their pocket at all times. And so you can get some great B-roll shots with the camera on here, or more importantly for this episode, you can get self shots. Now I'm gonna do a whole video on hosting tips later, but one of the big tricks is that you wanna look at the camera, not the screen. It's a slight deviation of where your eyes are, but very important. Next, GoPros. These are actually fantastic cameras if you use them right. Now, Jonas and I have done a lot of videos on GoPros, links to that down below. We're actually also GoPro ambassadors, which you'd think would mean we'd get a lot of free stuff, which is not the case. Essentially, we've just gotten a little bit more training from GoPro themselves. My first tip is mix up the mounts. In particular, my favorite mount is this one. This is the Jaws clamp. You can mount it to anything, and it allows you to get a lot of shots of you in the shot, walking around. It's fantastic. Next, if you want to up your production level a little bit, and I like shooting with this 1DX Mark II, you got to get this right here. Actually, Haley, can you help me out? Sure. Okay. This is what I wanted to show you. This is the GorillaPod from Joby, and you can use it to mount on any of the different cameras. It's actually the 5K version, so that means it holds 11 pounds. So you can set it down just like this, and it will hold your camera, which is fantastic. And you now have a perfect self-shooting setup. You can actually also use this as just a way to get a little bit of extra reach as you're doing your filmmaking. Now this leads me to the next thing. If you're doing a lot of vlogging, I highly recommend getting a camera like this, where you can flip the screen around and see yourself. So this camera, for instance, is the 80D, and I really like it. It has great autofocus capabilities, and it's super light, and with the shotgun coming off of the top, just like that, I mean, it's really about the perfect setup. Now, if you don't have a camera like this, which has the monitor here on the side, there are other ways to get around that. And sometimes I like shooting with my 1DX, which doesn't have the flip screen monitor. And that's where the Arga comes in handy. Now, out of the box, the Arga is essentially a battery unit that connects to a Wi-Fi device which connects to your camera. Just like that. And then you install an app, turn on your camera. So I can now check my focus from here and hit record, and you're good to go. And that's all there is to the Arga. I'll put links to that below. All right, so those are just a few of my tips on how you might self-shoot. I find so many people don't self-shoot, and I don't really know why. I mean, I kind of get it. It's a lot easier to have a camera person behind the camera like Haley is right at the moment. Sometimes it looks a lot better too, because there's so many things to think about. But that's time, that's money. I gotta say, Haley, I need you over here to help me. And that's not always feasible. And if you have a story that you want to tell, you can tell it by yourself, and there's so much power in having that ability. So I think it's a tool that everybody should have in their kit, being able to self-shoot. Okay, this is number 8 in 52 things. Big thanks to our patrons who are helping support this. If you guys have any ideas for new videos that we can create, leave it in the links down below. We will try to get to that, or if you want to collaborate with us, I'd love to hear from you. It'd be super fun. All right, we'll see you next Tuesday.